My name is Nesh. Just yeah, so that you know. And yeah, I'm one of the Nash, Nash. Yes, I'm one of the presenters on Active FM. Run a show called What's the Topic? So that's the show that I
Yes.
run. Yeah. Okay, so I got a couple of questions because it was interesting, you know, like reading your bio and what you actually do. And I did a couple of research on what you do, you know, what you specialized in. And it actually
Yes.
interesting. No, it's a very interesting area, you know, looking at your whole koi fish, you know, and yeah, your whole koi fish farming and all that stuff. So
Yes.
yeah, would you love to introduce yourself, you know, just for the audience that
Okay, my name is Frannie. I am the owner of Sugoi Koi Farm, and I have been farming koi now for 7 years. And I definitely wanna iterate. I don't do these 20, 30 Rand low quality koi you buy in a pet shop. I specialize in high-end Japanese imports. So all my breeders are directly from Japan. The vast majority of my breeders, 90%. And yeah, it's a big passion of mine, and it is my whole mission is to inform more people about how to better look after their fish and to get beautiful koi in people's ponds. Because what often happens is a person, the majority of fish available in South Africa that is bred here are very low quality animals. And some people often, like koi from Japan is often very expensive. I mean, you like 3,000 Rand for a fish is still cheap. For a fish that came in from Japan, locally bred fish are cheaper, but they're not as high quality. So one of my missions, one of my goals is to get affordable fish, but still beautiful fish into people's ponds.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's true. That's true. That's one of the things that I saw, like in terms of how much they cost. I was like, whoa, yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah.
The most expensive koi on record was by Sakai. It was a kohaku. Now a kohaku is basically a white koi with red markings, and she sold, I believe it was 2017. I'm not certain, but this female, her name was S Legend. She sold for 24 million Rand.
Sure.
So, and that fish ended up dying. So, yeah, big loss there. I think it was a Taiwanese lady, a Taiwanese dealer that bought it for her Chinese client. And so, yeah, big story. But yeah. So yeah, that's the most expensive so far. So in a couple of years, if a new koi comes around that hits that same or goes above that value.
Yeah, sure. I've seen the people actually get excited, you know, when it comes to those things like buying koi and all those stuff. Yeah, like they actually do get passionate and everything. With yourself, like do you have some funny facts about yourself, you know? Yeah, that you can share with us.
Well, I do run a TikTok. We're not one of the biggest creators in South Africa, but we do have quite a bit of a following. And, that's where I do a lot of my video marketing, because video is a great way to market your product. So we focus video mainly. And so on there, I talk a lot about koi fish. I talk about how to look after them and all that sort of stuff. And then I also, what I'll do from time to time to entertain my audience is I'll make animal noises. That's something that I'm quite good at. So that's the only funny fact I can think of about me that comes to mind immediately.
Okay, care to share a sound or two?
All right,
with us?
Name an animal.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at an eel.
Oh no, I don't know what an eel makes. The eel is underwater. They don't make much of a noise that I know of. Go for mammals or something like that.
Oh, okay. So you more of like any animal within water. Is that what you like? more common with?
No, I can make like I don't do I don't do fish sounds or anything like that. I make like lion, jackal, that's the sort of sounds I can make. Chimpanzee is one that I'm very good at.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How about that one? Yeah.
The chimpanzee.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. If I was in another room, I would definitely think that, yeah, that's one of them. Like, yeah, someone, yeah, no, that's actually cool. Wow. Looking at obviously, like your whole career, you know, like into koi farming, and yeah, since you've been doing it for quite a while now, like yeah,
Yes.
7 years is a lot. And yeah, you're basically going over 7 years. And yeah, one
Yeah,
thing that I
no.
would actually, yeah, like I'd love to ask is, how did you get into, you know, your whole koi fish farming and all the stuff?
Well, it basically started out, I lived in Cape Town, but then my father asked if I would come and visit him up in Johannesburg. So I went up to Johannesburg, and that visit was just planned to be a visit. That ended up turning into a stay. I ended up staying much longer than I anticipated. And my father one day came to me with the idea of aquaponics. Now, aquaponics is basically a system where the fish poo in the water, and that water is taken to plants, it filters down, it becomes clean, and then the water goes in cycle the whole time. So you reuse like 90% of your water, and it's basically farming of the future. And so I started doing research, but what fish can we use with aquaponics? Now, trout is often used in some aquaponic systems, but it cannot tolerate hot water. It can only, it is a cold water fish. Then on the other hand, there's tilapia, but tilapia, if the water goes to 13 degrees Celsius, they die. They cannot handle that cold water. So I decided, why not get koi? Because I did have koi as a kid, as a pig. And I just decided, from the research that I did, it was just like koi is the most, it's the easiest fish to do along with the aquaponics. And so we bought a couple of koi, and this was back in the day where I knew nothing. So when the guy asked me, well, what fish would I like to catch out? What fish would I like to take home? I said, no, it doesn't matter. I just want fish that can poop in the water. And basically, and as I started looking after these fish, the passion that I had for them, because I was interested in koi as a kid, but I had no way to feed that passion in my young adult life. And so as I was looking after these koi, the passion just grew from there, and it ended up to the place where me and my father bought a farm. And one of the things we were focusing on were koi fish. And yeah, like I said, I've been doing it for a very long time now. And, I have a lot of experience now that comes with the years, because there's some people where their pump sort of sucks air, it burns out, and they're like, I'm going to leave the hobby. And that is, I can't understand that, because, I have faced so much troubles and setbacks, and I had expensive fish die. And, I always kept going. I always kept trying again and again and again, to where the point now, I'm so experienced now, like I can put a fish to sleep, I can give it stitches, I can treat whatever disease it might have, and of course, so I basically had to learn to teach myself how to be a fish vet, because a vet is going to charge me over 1,000 Rand for an animal when I can do the same procedure for 200 Rand. So yeah, so that's how I got into koi, basically.
Sure. Wow. Okay. So I was gonna ask you, are you situated in Japan? Because
No. I am situated in Johannesburg, Gauteng. So I'm about 60 kilometers out of Johannesburg. Yes, and there is quite a few koi farmers in my area, but I am one of the, I'm basically one of the few koi breeders that actually specializes in producing high-end fish. because the other koi farms around me, I'm not going to say names, but they produce very low quality stuff and their customer service is absolutely atrocious. Like my passion is good customer service, good fish. That's the two things I want to be known for.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I am quite close to Johannesburg. Johannesburg is my target market, but my business also has a branch in Plettenberg Bay, where father also breeds koi, and he basically sells koi, and I sell koi under the same brand. We're just in different provinces, basically.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So with you guys, do you like have a specific breed that you guys do? Because one thing that I did see is there's like you get different breeds, and some people are specialized in one breed or two or three. Do you guys have a specific?
Yes, yeah, we only focus on Japanese koi because the Japanese fish is better built. It has better it's a better it has better muscles. It is a fish. It is just a superior fish because it looks better, it grows better. So we focus on the Japanese bloodline. Now you do get koi coming in from Israel as well. And these fish are often cheaper, but they're cheaper for a reason. Israeli koi appear very elongated. They don't have the nice musculature of the Japanese fish. And so, you know, it's just like, I consider it absolute heresy when somebody doesn't care about bloodline or standard. They just bugger whatever they have into a pond and then sell the babies what they get out of it, you know, and they don't care if it's a Japanese or an Israeli fish that they mix. So for me, yes, only Japanese koi. And now I do focus on a couple of varieties in the Japanese koi. You get butterfly koi as well, but I don't do butterflies. And quite honestly, the butterfly that come in from Taiwan into South Africa and some of the butterflies that I see coming in from Japan are not that great. Generally speaking, I don't recommend koi from Israel, but Israel breeds amazing butterfly koi. Those fish have the most beautiful long flowing fins. That's really, if you want to have an Israeli koi, go for a butterfly because it's just a higher quality animal. But yeah, I don't breed them. It's because I am interested in showing my koi. You know, butterfly koi you're not really going to compete with them. They're not considered a show animal. So yeah, that's why I don't breed them. And yeah, now I do specialize in a couple of varieties. One of the varieties I specialize in is Showa. So that's basically a black koi with red and white markings. Then I also breed, well, I haven't breed them yet. It was still a process getting my breeding stock to the age where they were ready to breed, but I'd like to produce Midori koi, which is a green koi. Midori is the Japanese word for green. And then I also produce harewake. Now a harewake is basically a koi with two metallic colors. So they'll have a white body and they'll have either orange or red markings on top of that. So those are the three varieties I specifically try to specialize in. But if if one year I decide, okay, I'm going to try this male with this female, then then I'll give it a shot. This last December, I bred a male to a female that I thought would be interesting, and the babies came out all wrong. So I'm still basically waiting to see if they're going to develop colors or not. Because, and then people ask me, well, am I going to sell these fish? And I tell them no. If they don't improve in quality, I'm either going to give them away or I'm going to euthanize them, because I refuse to sell garbage fish. That's something, I believe in very strongly. I breed disease-free fish. I breed dirty, I'm like my goal is to produce low quality fish. That's what I want to focus on. And so my fish are a bit higher priced than the fish that you would buy in a pet shop, but you get line and quality with that higher price.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That is really awesome. So what like with the breed that you do?
Yes.
What's the longest fish that you've ever gotten? Because like when I was doing research, I saw like your Karashigo koi. The one that I saw was like 36 inches long, which is big. That's like you.
Basically, anything above 80 80 centimeter is considered a jumbo. And jumbos can reach anywhere from between 80 centimeters to 110, 120. I'm not sure exactly, I'm not sure on the exact size. But yeah, jumbos do get very big and they get very expensive. But there's this misperception in South Africa where a person thinks because the fish is big and they think it's pretty, it must be valuable. But the fact of the matter is the body has to be correct. The pattern has to be correct. The color has to be correct. All these factors have to be in play in order for a fish to be valuable. Most koi that I see in South Africa, it's only a few hundred rand. They're not worth hundreds of thousands of rands. So yeah, my biggest koi currently, I don't have jumbos as far as I know, because in order for a fish to be a jumbo, the genetics has to be present. Not all fish carry the jumbo genetics. So my biggest fish is about 70 centimeters. And then the rest all range from babies to in between. But yeah, like I said, that's my biggest fish.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's quite huge. It's also, it's quite long.
Yeah, that fish is my absolute pride and joy. I paid a lot of money for her back in the day when she was a 2-year-old. She's about 4 years old now. So she's turning she's either already 5 or she's turning 5 in December.
In December. Wow. Sure.
Yeah.
Nah, that's amazing. So like in the process of doing this, what's the hardest thing that you've ever faced, while doing this?
The hardest thing, well, like there are things that I experienced in keeping koi where, an issue will occur that absolutely, wreaks devastation amongst my fish. Then I learn how to deal with that issue and then it becomes easier. So, I mean, it's difficult for me to say what's the hardest thing that I've ever dealt with, because I have dealt with an ammonia outbreak in my pond because the tornado of 2017 destroyed my filter, and I had no idea how to manage my water correctly back then. And it was, and I mean, I've lost fish to dropsy, there's a bunch of diseases that the fish get that is, that's like so easy for me to deal with now. It's not even a problem. I would say probably the hardest thing for me, is the waiting, because you have to wait for the fish to get a certain age before you can breed them. Because a female has to be at least 3 years old before you can breed her. A male can be bred on 2 years old. So, there's a lot of waiting involved. You have to wait for the fish. You have to wait for the babies to develop and then decide who are you going to sell, who are you going to keep. It's like the waiting is the biggest problem. And I'm not naturally a person with a lot of patience, but koi basically forced me to learn a lot of patience because, like I say, there's a lot of waiting involved, and you basically have to wait 3 years to see if the fish has developed correctly before you can decide, okay, this is a fish I'm going to keep or I'm going to let go of. So that's basically what I would say.
Yeah. So you don't breed them in a pond, right? You don't have a pond where you breed them.
Definitely what I do is I don't let my fish interbreed with each other just willy-nilly. I take out I take out the correct male and I take out the correct female. I put them together in a kiddie pool and I let them spawn that way. Once you put a female with 2 males in the breeding season, they will release the hormones in the water, and then the males will get uppity, and then they'll chase the female around, forcing her to lay her eggs. So that's and doing it that way, I ensure that my babies are going to come out a certain way. Because if you just let all your fish spawn together, you're basically going to have mutts that you can't do anything with. Well, there's some people that try and sell their mutts, but because I refuse to sell and breed mutts, it wouldn't be very advantageous for me to let them spawn that way. So definitely I remove the male and the female and let them spawn separately.
Okay. No, that's really awesome. Like in terms of your side, did you study to do what you do, or was it like a separate, something separate that you learned maybe from your dad or?
Yeah, no. Basically, I learned
You
everything that I know about
know,
koi from my mentor that
did you
worked
go
at
and
a
study
koi.
it, or did you just?
Yeah, basically what happened is I learned a lot from my mentor that was at another koi dealership. So you get koi farms and you koi dealership. Koi farms breed koi, and koi dealerships import fish from Japan, and then they sell it to the populace. So yeah, I learned a lot from my mentor, but I did a lot of online research. Like
Oh,
it's 7 years worth of research that I've put in. And
yeah.
I would be so like, I would try to devour as much information as I possibly can about koi fish, to the point where I would even look at Japanese articles and translate it through Google Translate, and to try and get at the information that they have to offer, because the Japanese are they're the ultimate experts when it comes to koi. So they're always the people I'm going to be listening to when they say do this, do that. So yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
completely self-taught, but a lot of what I know is stuff that I had to learn, from personal experience and a lot of online research.
yeah. So okay, if I actually took interest in like koi farming and everything, and I actually wanted to get involved, what would your advice be in terms of like that whole area, like yeah, in terms of farming and all those stuff?
Well, the thing about koi farming is, it's very ill-advised. Now, although I different, like, you don't want to start out with a fish that's worth 3,000, 4,000 rand if you don't know how to look after koi, because that fish can get sick, that fish can die. So I definitely recommend, if a person wants to start out with koi, buy cheap koi first and look after them through an entire season. In other words, take them from 1 year to summer the next year. And if you can look after the fish and you know how to treat diseases, and you know how to, you don't have to be on my level where you inject the fish and put them to sleep and all that sort of stuff, but just learning to do the basics is absolutely essential. And then once you feel your experience and knowledge is at a good point, because there's some people that keep a koi, they throw a koi in their pond, 2 weeks later it dies and they don't know why. So you basically have to look after a koi for a long period of time before you can go and say, okay, now I'm ready to buy breeding stock. And then basically it all then depends on your budget. Do you want to buy a baby that's going to take you 4 years to grow out before it can breed? Or are you going to buy an adult that can already breed for 4,000 rand plus? Generally adults coming in from Japan are between 3,000 and 8,000 rand, and that's on the cheap side. So I've seen fish coming into the country that was worth 19,500 rand, and I saw a fish once that sold for 75,000 rand.
Sure.
But it's important, there's a lot of people that's under a misperception that think, oh, there's this money to be made in koi. And the truth of the matter is, the reason why these koi are so expensive is because they were expert bred by the Japanese. Fish just bred in South Africa, 90% of the time, they're never going to be worth 19,500 rand.
Yeah, no, that's true. So what are some misconceptions, in terms of your area of expertise?
Well, there's definitely a couple of misconceptions. One of them is that koi are fragile. Koi is a carp. They're actually very hardy, but most people don't know how to look after their water properly. If you want to keep fish, fish is just a byproduct of keeping water. You have to learn how to keep water. And, like back when I was younger, I thought to myself, well, like, water changes is extremely important. You have to do water changes in order to get rid of all the nitrates in the water. And the ammonia converts into the nitrates. But basically what happens is, there's people that will say, water changes are not necessary because you have a filter, but the filter alone isn't going to get rid of all the toxins. You have to do water changes. And so water changes is definitely, you have to do it. Another myth is that if a fish is stunted, because you see, if you keep a fish in too small a space, they get what is called stunted. In other words, they basically will never grow up to their full potential. And people have there's this myth that where people think that if a fish is stunted, the body will stop growing, but the organs will continue to grow, and eventually the fish will explode. But from the research that I have done, there is no scientific evidence supporting this. That's a myth. And then another misconception is that people think a baby koi must only be 20, 30 Rand. They don't understand how a baby koi can be worth 300 Rand. And, once again, as I've mentioned, it all comes down to quality and bloodline. I have even, like, when people say a 300 Rand for a baby koi is expensive, I find that a bit ridiculous, because I've paid the most expensive baby I ever bought was 1,500 Rand. And that fish ended up dying because it got dropsy. So, the high-end Japanese koi are expensive, but it's worth it ultimately, because you're going to have a better bred animal that's going to look better, that's going to be more disease resistant, all that sort of stuff. Definitely notice that fish from South Africa gets a lot more easier than the fish from Japan. Now, Japanese fish do get sick. Sometimes an organ will fail, sometimes they get dropsy. That does happen from time to time. But generally speaking, especially when it comes to KHV. Now, KHV stands for koi herpes virus, and it's basically like bird flu. If that's in your pond, you have to euthanize all your fish. And the Japanese make very certain, they make very good certain that their fish are KHV free. They do all sorts of tests, and we don't run these tests. Most koi farmers in South Africa don't run that test. So if you go to a place that sells koi commercially, that doesn't focus on the high-end client, you don't know if that fish may have KHV, because the thing is, it could be a carrier. It might not die from KHV, but it can transmit KHV to your other fish, and then your entire collection can go up in smoke. And koi collections, koi collections that are made up of fish that was imported from Japan can be worth thousands of rands. And then last concept is, these fish that you buy for 20, 30 Rand at a pet shop, they're never going to be worth hundreds of thousands of Rand. People seem to be under this impression that because a fish is big and it looks pretty, it must be worth of money. But, that's simply not the case. The genetics, color, and pattern all have to be correct. They have to be appropriate, because you get correct and you get incorrect. And every aspect of the fish has to be correct in order for it to gain in value. And most fish, in South Africa at least, aren't going to reach that.
No, that's I do agree with you. I saw that also within the research that I was doing. I was like, wow, okay. So what is your favorite? And I know when I was doing research, there was one fish one koi fish called the Kujaku koi. I actually like the patterns and how it looked and all that stuff. So what's your favorite? Like, wow, which would you say is your favorite?
I have a couple of favorites. Definitely Midori Goi, but I don't own a Midori Goi, which is why I plan on breeding them, because they're so rare. There's only 2 guys in Japan that I know of that breed Midori Goi, and so it's a very rare koi, but it's not necessarily valuable, because rare doesn't necessarily always mean valuable. It's just one of those things in the koi industry. But Midori Goi is definitely a favorite of mine. Then I also like Orange Harewake, which is basically a metallic white koi with orange markings on top. And then my favorite, like in the koi keeping hobby, there is the big 3 that is known as the Gosanke. And the Gosanke consists of Sanke, Showa, and Kohaku. Now, my favorite member of the Gosanke is a Showa. I like that big black markings that they have. It's difficult for me to pick my most favorite variety. because there's a lot of varieties that I really like. One of my favorite koi are karashi goi, soragoi, and chagoi, because these fish are so friendly. They grow so fast. They help calm down the other fish in the pond, and they just explode in growth. You give them clean water and high protein food, those fish just explode. That's how I got a fish from a 2-year-old all the way up to 70 centimeters. And now I was a bit confused. So some of the listeners might be confused about this as well. When I first started learning about koi, I didn't understand how could one koi be more tame than another koi, because they're still carp at the end of the day. Why should personality differ depending on the color? And the reason why that is, the reason why I found out that is because they grow very fast.
Yeah.
And because they grow very fast, they're more hungry, you know, like a teenager that hit their growth spurt. And so because they're more hungry, they're willing to take more chances and go closer to your hand and eat the food. And so they tame a lot easier. And that's the reason why.
Okay, wow. I'm definitely gonna go and check them out. I didn't know about the, you know, your 3 big, fish. So I didn't know about those ones. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of those ones. So I'll definitely go and have a look there. And what is the, I think, you've covered a lot, and even myself, I've learned a lot from what you've said. Just for the audience, what is the, like, I would say the last thing that you would advise, you know, to the audience out there?
Check your water's KH and pH. Now, if you're on a borehole, you're pretty much can be assured that your pH is going to be, your KH is going to be between 120 and 180. So you don't really have to worry about KH. The problem, now KH stands for carbonate hardness. And if you're on city water with chlorine in it and everything, the KH can be very low, the carbonate hardness. And if that is anything under 100, can cause a pH crash. So basically your water will test fine the evening you go to bed. Next morning you wake up, all your fish is dead, and the water still looks fine if you test it. And that's because of a pH crash that caused the water to become too acidic. And now pH is the least thing to worry about, because koi are very hardy. You know, if the water's a little bit on the acidic side, they can handle it. If the water's a little bit more alkaline, they can handle it. Basically anything between 6.5 and 8.5, a koi can handle fine. You just don't want to be outside those parameters. And that's basically it, you know, like water is the most important thing you have to learn how to look after before, you know, if you want to be successful in fish keeping as a hobby in general. Yeah,
sure. Okay. So where are the places, like, do you guys have platforms, like where can we actually see?
Yes,
your,
well,
like,
I am Sugoi Koi Farm is my koi farm's name. You can contact us through our Facebook. Then we are also on TikTok. Like I've mentioned, we're doing very good on TikTok. We get, you know, our digital marketing efforts are going very well on there. The TikTok is not under Sugoi Koi Farm. It is Ranger Homesteading. So that is RANGER Homesteading. And people can go out. They can see a lot of my videos where I talk about koi and how to look after their water. People can ask me questions, and you know, the majority of the time when it's possible for me, I reply with a video, so to help other people as well, because video is really the best way to get my message across. At least video doesn't work for every business, but you know, particularly for my industry, that's very visual, where you look at the beauty of the fish and how it swims through the water. That all, you know, so video is definitely a big aid in that.
Wow.
So yeah, if people are interested, they can go and check us out there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll have a look at it. I'll definitely have a look. And in an honor, it's been an honor, you know, basically, interviewing you, you know, also getting knowledge, you know, about your whole koi farming and everything. I know also as here by us, we do have a couple of things that we look after, and the stuff that you have shared. Yeah, it's
Yes, yeah.
really valuable insight, and yeah, it's an honor from our side as Active FM to have you on the station.
No,
Yeah.
pleasure. Thanks a lot, eh?
Awesome. Looking forward to, yeah, probably having a couple of other interviews in the future. And yeah,
Yes.
till then,
Yes,
do
guys, you do have my email, so if you're ever interested in in contacting me again, we can set up another interview.
yeah, definitely. Do take care, and yeah,
No,
make sure you keep on sharing the knowledge.
thanks a lot, eh? Definitely will.
Cheers.